Hello, everyone. My name is Piers Ridyard. I am the CEO of RDX Works, core developer behind the Radix protocol, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi into the mainstream. This is Jeremy, our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, who has recently joined us. I'm sure some of you have seen the exciting post that Jeremy put out called When Marketing, which is on the radixdlt.com blog post. But Jeremy, fantastic to have you here.
Piers, it's honored to be here. I've gotten indoctrinated sufficiently to the Radix world. I've had an opportunity to meet the community in all different levels. It's been awesome. It's been a whirlwind. So I'm honored to be here.
I mean, we've been working together for a while, right? I think that the thing that has been fantastic, and you've coined this wonderful phrase, the Radix Revelation, which I love so much, because I think it's like the crypto revelation as well. Like, there's so many ways in which people like approach their aha moment in crypto, in blockchain, in Web3, and whatever. And Radix is just the same. There isn't one like path for everyone. There's multiple paths. Right. And so like one day you called me up and you're like, Piers, it's the Radix Revelation. What was it that like made you realize that was the case?
Yeah, I think it's I spent some time digging into, like, I knew the promise of Radix was, this really ridiculously ginormous BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal of basically bringing the $400 trillion global economy from tradfi, CeFi onto DeFi. And I was like, okay, Radix is thinking bigger than anyone else, broader than anyone else. And it's just like, wow. And so I followed that path and said, all right, well, I've never even thought that large, because like most people in this crypto space, it was like, okay, well, let's kind of fail our way forward the way all the other L1s do it. And eventually, like, we'll have something super cool, and everyone will like sort of like the internet. And like, yeah, that's one way to do it. But I was like, well, this is a really like orthogonal approach to the whole thing. How exactly is this going to work? And then I started to go down the Radix rabbit hole, if you will, started to explore it. And, I think there was a moment for me, and I've been reading whatever, and I think the moment for me, I was reading, this is going to sound super geeky, like the Cerberus infographic, and I finally got what the shard space was all about. And I was like, holy shit, not every DLT is a blockchain. And not every execution layer is the EVM. And it was like, I tell people now, like the transition from sort of the blockchain oriented, like GPL mentality to a purpose built DeFi, layer one was almost as big for me as the transition from like the centralized world to the decentralized, like the Bitcoin white paper kind of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it was like a revelation that sort of just dawned on me. And I was like, this is the only way it's going to work at scale. Like, it was just obvious. And then as I started to talk more and more with people in the community and even people at RDX Works, it seems like everybody has their own moment of Radix revelation where they sort of get it. And so I was like, now our marketing job is simple. Well, sorry, it's simple, but not easy. It's simple in that we need the whole world to have a Radix revelation. I'm not 100% sure exactly how we do that just yet. Sorry.
So let's talk about that. Like, you've been with Radix now for how long?
Like in crypto years or actual time?
In actual time. In actual time, how long have you been full time with Radix?
I think like a month now.
Okay. And like, so what's that first process been for you? And then like, what do you see coming down the line in the next few months for you and for the team and for the community?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's just been fantastic to see the energy within the company at RDX Works. I mean, one of the things that really gets me excited is how passionate and committed everybody is to this vision of giving builders everything they need to obsolete TradFi. Right now, that's a noble mission, and it's bigger than any one of us can do by ourselves. So when you're part of an organization or a team or a community, I should say, that has such a noble goal, like there's something really uplifting and empowering about that. So I love that. That's been great. I think what we're doing now is a couple things that are sort of not as sexy maybe to the outside, and maybe not always answer the when marketing side, but critical for our long-term success. And so the first thing is, we basically tripled the size of the marketing team in the last month. So that's been fantastic to get more horsepower in to support us. We've really started to align more effectively with the Community Marketing Council, and their support's been invaluable. We've started to engage a little bit more in a more healthy way with the community. In fact, we have a series now of when marketing calls in Asia, EMEA, and North and South America. Our first one in APAC's March 2nd, the Europe one, and that's going to be at 1300 London time. March 9th is going to be, or 2200 Hanoi, depending on where you are. March 9th will be 1700 London, 1800 in Europe. And then March 16th for North and South America is going to be around 1600 or 1800, I should say, 6 o'clock Eastern time. And the purpose of those calls, and maybe you and I can do like a monthly roundup if the community wants. I mean, They may not want to watch us chat. You and I barely want to talk to each other, so why would anyone else want to? Exactly. But
two old bespectacled white men talking about marketing.
Exactly. I'm older than you. Look at all this gray. You don't make gray, Gingy.
I got my first gray hair. It's in my eyebrow.
So that's good. Maybe that's something that you could tweet out about. It's not really a Radix project, so I don't think you'd have any legal concerns. But you can be like, hey, we could actually have a little counter. The Piers gray hair counter. Those pictures they have of like presidents where they show them at the beginning of office and the end of office? Right. That's what we should have for Piers. Beginning of Radix, when Radix has $400 trillion, and you'll be like this old gray. You're gonna be in a wheelchair most likely. No hair, gray. You can have IVs pumping stuff into you. It's gonna be nasty, but you're sacrificing yourself for the future of DeFi.
For the greatest good. It's for the greatest good.
The world, it's either that or the world continues down this CeFi path, and we just can't allow that to happen.
No, exactly.
Right? So thank you for your sacrifice.
I will sacrifice body and soul.
That's the kind of guy hair. You are. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, the point of this now that we've riffed on that, the point of these when marketing calls is, like, I know the best marketing ideas are going to come from the community. I know that a lot of people have great ideas and they're seeing things that I could never see. So I want to make sure we have an opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to do them all. And that's sort of the second thing we've been working on, is driving focus and alignment. In order for a marketing organization, and really what we have here, I would say, is a decentralized marketing organization, because the bulk of our marketing horsepower doesn't work for RDX Works. And they shouldn't. It should be the community and token holders. They're naturally marketers. Excuse me. So all we're going to try and do in working with the community is chart the course. We're going to set the destination, which is the Radix Revelation. We're going to determine, what does that mean? How can we all agree that that moment of universal Radix Revelation has happened? Is it TVL? Is it number of smart contracts or dApps deployed? Is it number of developers? Some combination, all of the above. But picking the right ones is critical, and also takes a little bit of time, because you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right things. So we have to be as deliberate and intentional about our marketing as we are about this world-class platform that we're building. So to me, like, that's sort of the necessary marketing infrastructure. Get the team up and running, give them focus, get clarity, build the operational efficiency, effectiveness, open up the lines of communications, so that we can really continue to execute on this way to Babylon, which is obviously the next big thing, but that doesn't mean we're going to wait. So that's kind of what we're doing these days, but hopefully the community is seeing more of a rhythm, more activity coming. And we're just trying to be smart about where we spend our time and our money to get the biggest output so that at the end of the day, everyone can feel that incredible sensation of the Radix Revelation.
It's going to be, there's some interesting like challenges in there as well, right? Because you're this interesting, you're this fascinating hybrid of like crypto and blockchain having been your passion for a very long time, but also having built two unicorns from like sort of pretty small to unicorn status, and the marketing organization that was necessary in the Web 2 world to do that. But one of the big reasons that I wanted to get you on the team so much was not just because you understood how to build a marketing organization, but you understood that there was going to be so many differences in how there was success was going to look here versus versus the traditional how there's a playbook for Web 2. There isn't a playbook for Web 3 yet.
Right.
And I think you're right. It is it's this alignment of purpose, of destination, and then the method in which the destination can be achieved in terms of how do we know we're approaching it, and then discuss like lots of discussion around what the key inputs to that are going to be to make sure that's successful. Right. Not just as a result of like RDX Works or Radix Tokens Jersey, but as a result of everyone understanding that they're getting together. I mean, like you're a huge proponent of the OKR framework, right?
I have deep OK religion for sure.
You're a deep OK religion. Yeah. But I think this all like comes into this idea of like being clear about what the objectives are, and then being clear about whether or not you've reached your objectives. Yeah. And I like some of the stuff that you've written in the past around this, and the idea of being able to align everyone around these things internally and externally, and how powerful that might be.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, it's the only thing I'm a little disappointed with what you just said is I thought you wanted me on the team because of my incredible good looks and sense of humor. But I mean, I guess if it's background, I can deal with that.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that anymore, am I?
Is that a harassment thing? If you does it imply that other people aren't good looking and don't have a good sense of humor? Are the lawyers going to get involved at some point? That's probably in very compliance. The regulatory guys are going to come down. Anyway, okay. Clearly, if the community might like this part, but I can see a lot of our coworkers at RDX Works not liking that riff. So I'm going to stop. Anyway, hopefully they won't watch this part. They're tired of me. Yeah, I mean, look, while I probably get a little too crazy sometimes or evangelical about the OKR framework, what I've taken away from it is that like two of the most like incredibly unifying, game-changing capabilities that an organization can have are clarity of mission and alignment towards that objective. And like when I look at these Web3 communities, and I think about every single person, how many token holders do we have now? I need a dashboard on this, but we have a fair number, right? Every single one of those, and this is true for any project, every single one of those people has a natural incentive and an economic incentive to help us all achieve our goal, All I'm saying is that if you get an army all marching in the same direction, like that's going to be an overwhelming force of nature. We just all have to agree on what direction, what we want to accomplish in the short term. And I'm of the belief that sure, money is important, and how much you've raised is important, and token price is important, and all these things are important. But if you can drive that alignment more effectively than the other ones, you're going to win. And I believe this. So for us, we have to sort of agree on what that is. And figure out how to do it in a Web 3.0 way, which I think is the other point, which is I'm so excited about this opportunity because I feel like, being in the middle of this crypto DeFi revolution is so in line with my values and the values of Radix I share the values of Radix, obviously, and that's fantastic. But the thing I have to be aware of in my own personal growth, and it's a challenge because unlike you, Piers, I'm an old man. I have multiple gray hairs, not just one in my eyebrow, apparently. which is trust but verify. I'll need an up close picture of that. You know, I think it's sort of like, what are the things that are the best part of Web 2.0 marketing that I definitely should bring? And what are the things about Web 2.0 marketing that I should leave behind and upgrade for Web 3? And I mean, I'm probably a little bit nervous, maybe even a little scared about like, how do I figure out? Because I know there's plenty of stuff that work. Like, you don't want to throw everything out, but bringing everything's obviously not going to work either. So finding that is going to be a challenge for me. Is I'm probably sandbagging here a little bit. It's going to take some time. So that's kind of how I feel. But I think it's a great point.
Yeah, one of the things that's always interesting about at least the traditional business model view of things is like when you have product market fit, there's a playbook to going, okay, this is what product market fit looks like. This is what profitability looks like for the company. If I put this many dollars in this side, I have a very well-oiled machine with lots of good tools that I get that many dollars out the other side. So all I need to do is raise a load of money and throw money in this side, have all of my metrics stack up, and then, sort of growth out the other side, right? And it's a playbook that's worked so well. And now there's this completely new aspect of community being a cycle, like community being a cycle in itself of this, that like where there is no, like we don't know what is a good quality community. Is it a community that talks a lot? Yeah. Is it a community that is like super helpful to newbies? Is it a community that continually gets itself up the learning curve? Is it a community that wants to like quit their job and do this full time, or is it a community that wants to be like all of these things are going to be important, but like how can you tell? Like the basic measures we have at the moment are things like number of conversations that are happening and number of people online. Right, like that doesn't tell the difference between a community that's burning to the ground and a community that is like super excited. And
no,
then
that's
like
true.
What is the you always have this in communities. There are a few people like our Radix mods and like our Radvocates and the people who are just doing incredible work in the community who make all of the difference. But like, what is the number of community members that have to come in at the top to create a new Radvocate at the bottom? Like how many, and like how consistently can you get a Radix Revelation? And like, what does that Radix Revelation actually turn into in terms of effective developers or effective projects they're building in the space? And like, it is amazing to see what's already being built with the small number of tools that are available on Olympia. But like all of these things like are yet to find out. So I think this is, I don't think you're sandbagging. I think it's clear that a lot of what the crypto is doing right now is throwing money against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like Tezos was, sponsoring the Premier League in the UK.
Right.
And they're up there with Adidas. Is that their right audience? Is that who they're going after? Like, who knows? Is that effective? We don't know. Like, there are examples abound of similar things like that. FTX sponsoring the Miami Arena or Crypto.com, UFC. Like, these are all really interesting experiments. The key for me is like, are you building an audience or are you building a community? And how does does your audience flow into your community? And these are still the experiments that are yet to be seen.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully I didn't have too much of a crash there because I'm trying to share my screen on this godforsaken platform.
Hey, this is my bread and butter podcasting machine.
But how well does it share?
I've never ever shared a screen.
I wanted to show off my little OKR slide to kind of give us. I mean, you raised so many critical points there, but now, of course, like it's not working because that would imply I actually know what I'm doing. And
no, I've never seen anyone share a screen on here.
Okay, well then here we go. if I can figure out how to do it, then
There is
I
a button,
will.
say share.
No, I know, but it froze my machine for a while there. Let's see if I can do this, but this is not making an impressive. What's the word? Oh, here we go. It's not making an impressive debut about the CMO's technical skills. So let's see if we can pull this off. All right. Hopefully we can see this, because I think it goes directly. Let me know if it ever shows up. Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
Up. There we go.
Okay, this is my favorite slide, because I think you raised a couple points, right? Now, what I want to emphasize is I don't want anyone to get like caught up on the dates or the time frames or whatever.
Or the finish.
What?
Or the finish.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's going to be people going, that's not in line. That's not correctly justified.
Not only that, the CMO is like that guy has no appreciation of brand. I'm like, yes, I know, man. It's like,
where's your design, man? Where's your design talent?
This is version 0.01, people. Like, I'm bringing you like all the way deep into the workshop here.
This is the napkin. This is the napkin in the pub. We just sat down and we're just like, this is it, man.
This is like a few good men moment. You can't handle the truth if you can't deal with this. Like, so the reason why, a couple things I wanted to show about this, because, A, I created it, so naturally I fell in love with it. But B, more importantly, I think it goes to something that's really important. So the first thing I want to talk to everybody about the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 is like, if you're a Web 2.0 CMO, there are only three things you care about. You care about awareness, you care about perception, and you care about leads, demand gen. That's it. Everything else, like, I go into board meetings with people who've given, $100 million. They'll talk to the sales team for like 45 minutes. Then they'll say to the marketing team, like, how many leads did you generate last month at what cost? And I'd be like, oh, we generated X number of leads and we reduced the number of costs. And they're like, okay. And that's literally it. And then they move on. They don't care about anything else. Well, what does demand gen look like in a Web 3? It's hard to say. Now, we definitely need awareness. And like anyone if you're spending the time watching this show, you probably care about Radix awareness, and you probably feel it's not as big as you would like it to be. We're all aligned on that one. The question is, how do you measure awareness? Is it, you put a Super Bowl ad out? Is it Twitter impressions? Like, there are thousands of ways to measure awareness. So picking the right goal and then the right number within the goals is critical. So there's awareness. The second thing is perception. My classic example here is Tron. Everybody knows who Tron is. That doesn't mean they have the best perception in the marketplace. The third, instead of demand gen, is what we call, I didn't coin the term, I think Adam came up with it, proof of builders. When we talk to people in the industry, their first question justifiably is going to be, how many developers do you have banging away on Radix? And obviously right now, until Babylon, the story is going to be different than post Babylon. That's fine, but we need to figure out a way to verifiably communicate that more and more people are seeing the game-changing potential that Scripto plus the Radix engine plus Cerberus all bring, this end-to-end DeFi, purpose-built DeFi stack that Radix has put together. And then the last thing, and this comes back to your point, is strength of community, right? I sometimes joke with Jacob and the other team members. I said, what I really want is like when you go into a store now and they scan your temperature with that remote thermometer, like I want that to measure Radix passion. I call it a passionometer. Like, to me, I would love to go to every single Radix token holder and have them have like a little, what are those headsets, like those meditation headsets that you just put on, and like every day it's telling me how excited are people about Radix. Now, I don't have that device just yet, and maybe we can do like an XRD incentive giveaway for someone to build that, an IoT device and whatever. But in between now and there, we need to figure out a healthy proxy that basically says this is an indication of how passionate this community is feeling. Because if you're feeling more passionate, that's great. If you're feeling less passionate, that's not great. And those are the things I want to measure. So what we've done is we've said, okay, the Radix Revelation, we're going to be super aggressive. One thing you're going to find out about me is like I'm super aggressive in shooting for goals because I would rather shoot high and fail than just be like, oh, look, I crushed it, but it doesn't really move the needle. So if we have this Radix Revelation in 2 years, well, then we need to have some momentum going into that after Babylon, which means we really need to start rolling in a measurable way over the next couple months, and we need to pick the right metrics along the way. So over the next couple weeks and months, but hopefully sooner, we're going to nail these things down. We're going to communicate it with the community. We're going to share what the numbers are. I'm going to put my butt on the line so they can say, hey, this is what you told us we were going to do. And it's going to keep me honest, keep me focused. And odds are we probably won't hit all of them because we're going to shoot really, really high. But it's like shoot for the stars, aim, land on the moon kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing where I would value input. But this is sort of the framework that we're bringing to try to align and focus the internal marketing team, and hopefully there's value to the community as well. So that was a lot, but hopefully there's some value there.
Yeah, and I think that this sort of like goes into sort of the longer term goals beyond that, which do also come into sort of, they do come back round to more quantitative things again. It's like you can say, look, ultimately what we're driving for is the number one DeFi platform in the world. And like, what does that mean? What does that mean by TVL? What does that mean by transactions? What does that mean by apps? What does that mean by
Market
users?
cap, yeah, right.
Yeah, all of that stuff. But like those are like they're endpoints and benchmarks, but they're not goals in themselves, because if you just shoot at those, you're not actually ending up driving the thing that matters. The thing that matters, community strength, proof of builders, like perception and awareness, all of these things. But then like, when you have people who are passionate enough to make a decision to quit their job and build their first project on Radix. When you have people who are passionate enough to decide to do a course in Scripto instead of a course in JavaScript. Like people who are passionate enough to spend time hanging out in the community and find that technical co-founder they need for their project from the Scripto developer ecosystem so that they can do their first thing. Like people who are passionate enough to spend their nights and weekends learning about finance because they've already learned about crypto, but they don't want to just build something derivative. They want to build something new. They want to build something breakthrough that Scripto has suddenly opened the door from, because the amount of complexity you can build in these things has massively skyrocketed. Like those are the things that we have to focus on as a community, as a team, as a project, because those are the things that ultimately mean that you dominate the space. It's not like capital, as DeFi has already shown, capital will flow to where the opportunity is.
Right. In seconds, yeah.
And so it's about like, how do you create the best environment for opportunity to spring in the first place? And that for me is a lot of what this is all about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the things that's both exciting and challenging is because Radix is so radically different than pretty much everybody else out there. Like it does take a relatively long time to quote unquote get it. And the fact that the Radix engine is doing to finance, or will do to finance, what the game engine did to gaming, like that's the kind of like technological sea change that's only really appreciated in the rear view mirror, and it's just hard. It's like, after we do it and after people start using it, be like, well, this is obvious. How come no one thought of this before? But right now, it's like, what are you guys doing? Why are you not EVM compatible? What's wrong? You're like, because the EVM's the problem, man.
Right. I mean, that is actually one of my favorite conversations that I've had with you. Was like, we spoke to, one of the leading, we won't say who, one of the leading funds in the space, one of the leading partners in the space, and he is basically sitting there going like, look, the game's won. If you guys aren't EVM compatible, if you aren't working with Solidity, like it's end game. And it's like, the DeFi industry is a dot on an invisible dot. Like, we think 200 billion is big. Like,
It's a joke.
you have it's 1,000x less or more than what it's going to be.
Right.
And I love the saying you always say is like, Google's the 24th search engine. Is that right?
24th search engine, exactly. And I was thinking, go to Wikipedia, look at all the history of the search engines. Google was 24th, right. And it's like, right. There's a reason. I mean, aside from the fact that Google's the poster child for OKRs, we'll leave that aside. Right. But like, think about it. Up until then, people were bringing like a analog paradigm to the web. It was like, oh, we have yellow pages or whatever we have. We have directories. Let's just build a directory online. But what they didn't think about is how do we that's like in every technological innovation. And this is what I think is so awesome about what we're doing here at Radix is like, there's always two phases in my rough, overly simplistic way of looking at it. Number one is people look at new tech and they ask, oh, how can we do what we already do better, faster, cheaper? Great. You should do that. You can make a directory better, faster, cheaper. You can send email, which is faster mail, e-commerce, which is faster commerce. But the real question, and where the exciting part, and Fred Wilson's blogged about this a lot, is what are the business model innovations that are possible as a result of the arrival of the new technology? And that's where Google came along and was like, wait a second, we can analyze all the links going in from various places, blah, 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 PageRank, which was a radically different orthogonal view on how to surface the best content.
Right.
And now, and we saw that with Facebook, Meta, and Twitter, and all these new, 20 years ago, these companies had zero value. Now they're the largest companies on the planet and most valuable companies. And we're going to see that again. And what Scripto and Radix unleashes or unlocks is that same type of business model innovation. It's just that right now, most of the world has no clue that A, it's out there, or B, it's going to matter. But one day they're going to use it.
Right. And it's so contextually hard to think the new thing. It's so contextually hard to think the new thing. Like, for me, the pools and shares component of DeFi was a 0 to 1 innovation. It was such a interesting reformatting of the concept of a financial product, which was always a 1-to-1 mapping of lender to borrower. Whereas now you have this idea of a pool of lenders and discrete borrowers that pull from the pool, but their debt is in common. All of that stuff made possible Uniswap and Aave and Compound and basically everything that is working on DeFi today is using that. And just that one simple idea is the basis for 220 billion. So what's the next 220 billion TVL idea? That next keeping up, uncovering the darkness, peeping through the window of the possible and bringing that forwards. And that's why another reason we built Scripto was it's if you think in code, how can we make the easiest tool for you to be as powerful as possible? Because it takes incredible brain power and incredible thought and incredible revelation to come up with these hindsight simple ideas.
Right.
Hindsight simple ideas.
Hindsight simple. I like that. That's exactly what we're right. It's. I think you nailed it. And as you're talking, I've been thinking about, especially now, what kind of person is ready for the revelation, right? Not everyone can receive the word at the same time. I mean, I guess I go back, I sent my first email in 1991. There were fewer than 1 million people who had email at that point. And I remember going hard evangelizing email. I built a web page in 1992 and, I was going around and people are always like, why would I ever need email? Why would I ever need a web page? My all-time favorite is I'm never going to feel comfortable putting my credit card on the internet. That's my ultimate. Or why would I ever need a smartphone? And now you're like, I would rather cut off my arm than give up my smartphone, right? And so I know that everything, I just had an experience last night trying to migrate funds from one account to another that in a DeFi world would be done in 2 seconds, and in a TradFi world is going to take me like 8 weeks. I mean, it's just insane. And so you're right, it's hindsight obvious, but like, okay, what kind of community member, what kind of token holder, what kind of developer is at this moment in history most like open to, okay, DeFi is going to eat the world. The EVM message-oriented framework is not going to get the job done because even on a good day, 65,000 TPS is not going to get you there. And that's if you're working, but we don't want to go bash anybody, and, and then can appreciate all the possibilities that are unlocked, see that future, and then work towards it, even though right now we're still sort of in this, Alexandria phase where whatever. But like, what kind of person? Like that's like the marketing nightmare. It's like not all people, not all developers, not all are like, oh yeah, I can get into that vision. And I'm like, that's like no, that's like, it's like that guy we talked to. He's like, I'm never going to feel comfortable putting my credit card on the internet, and the EVM is done. And we're like, oh, dude.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm open to suggestions on that one, but that's where we're going to have to find, like, there's a psychographic in addition to the demographic stuff, and that's what makes it challenging, but fun too.
So I could probably, so like when early days of hiring in Radix,
before you had your one gray hair in your eyebrow?
Before I had my one gray hair in my, exactly, yeah.
I want to think that I gave you the white gray hair. That's
chasing you for like 12 months to join the team.
There you go. Let's go with that story. We're going to go with that story. Yeah, exactly. You know what you could do is you could sell naming rights for all of the gray hairs, and you could probably generate some revenue there. The NFT. Something to think about.
Piers' first gray hair NFT.
Yeah, NFT, exactly. You could attach an RFID to it, make it NFT, and then I could own it. That'd be epic.
Okay.
Don't want to. We're a little off track here.
Now I can't remember what I was talking about. Jesus Christ.
There's no way the communities can be like, we want more of this. They're going to be like this. I'm glad you're only doing it once because this is just utter nonsense. I don't even know what you guys are talking about anymore. This is Piers and I do this every day. We have a standing call at 3:30 Eastern. We call it Mind Meld, and it's basically that. And now we're just doing
the
open
conversation I have just before going to bed.
Yeah, that's romantic. It makes me feel good. I get to, and then I sing him a lullaby at the end. A lot of people don't know that.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet.
He's had all stressful days. The CEO at RDX Works. The community's yelling at him. The team's yelling at him. Everyone's yelling at him. The shit hits all of Piers' fans, and he's hurt. So I'm like, it's okay, Piers. I can sing to you, man. It'll be fine. It's part of my full service CMO package.
I cry inside. So it's like with the early days of recruiting, sort of like for RDX Works, two of the things I was looking for is intellectual curiosity, and likes to do and has done provably hard things. And those two, like that's mental toughness. Or it's mental toughness, likes to do and has done provably hard things. And mental curiosity is like a person who just likes double tapping on yes, but why? Like, yes, but why? And I think those two things, because a discomfort with well, that's because it's how it works.
Right.
Is such an important prerequisite to being interested in what DeFi represents, in what crypto represents. And so I think that you could apply that also to the web world. Like, it's like, I'm not curious in why I should put my credit card online. I'm just uncomfortable with the idea of doing it because it's new and different. And so there is no curiosity in me wanting to double click on that and understand what the opportunity is. Right. And then like I have to battle with things that are difficult. And if you're not the kind of person who's like, yeah, man, let's go climb a mountain, you're not going to be the person who's going to be like, let me work out what a what a crypto wallet is. Like, because it's difficult. That some people view difficulty as a challenge, as like, oh, it's a puzzle to solve, and I'm going to learn something, and I'm going to gain something fun from it. And other people view it as hassle. You know.
No, I think you're totally right. It's funny you said that, because yesterday I was, so we're running, we, as part of our efforts to answer the when marketing question. And I want an answer.
Does this count? I'm not sure this counts.
I don't know, but see, this is coming back to metrics. Like, and everybody who asks when marketing, my question's always going to be, fine, you tell me how we will both know when marketing has happened. What we're going to try to do, what we're actually running a small, sorry, I don't say we're running. We're beginning the process in order to run a small scale test on the psychographics, basically.
Right.
And I almost want a page, like, not for our developers. I want our developers go to the developer landing page. I want them digging whatever. But there are people who are not developers who are just like, they're going to hear about Radix, because if we're even remotely doing our job, more and more people come. They're going to see our ads. We're going to get more creative about them, more interesting. But I almost want people to come to a page that's like, and it just says, are you fully committed to the idea that DeFi will eat CeFi? If yes, you may continue. If no, then we'll like redirect you to like, Google or CNN or Facebook or whatever, and be like, here, have you here? Because it's like, if you don't fundamentally have that core belief, and maybe that's not the right question, but we're going to test it, so it doesn't matter. But like, if you don't have a couple of core beliefs about how the world will evolve, I'm not saying we all know, none of us know. For all we know that DeFi loses. It's hard for me to see that, but it's definitely possible. If you don't have a full core set of fundamental beliefs, like, you're not ready for the Radix Revelation. You're just not. So why should I spend time, money, energy trying to get you, who's not even at the point where it's like, oh, this DeFi thing, I wonder, like, it's just different. It's like you were saying, it's like, I'm not curious about DeFi. Then I'm not going to waste my time. Like, it's just, you're not the right
audience. Or neither
audience.
should you waste your time, right? As in, like, neither should the person. Like, until you accept the premise that this may change the world in some fundamental way, and that it may actually affect you personally. That's something that you personally need to understand. It's not for the abstract concept of the financial ecosystem that exists at like a distant and apart from you. I think people think of the global financial system as distant and apart from them. It's not something they touch. It's not something that affects their everyday life, even though it affects every single thing that they touch and every single thing that they do. Whether or not it's planning for the future or consuming or living in a house or whatever. So like, I do think that initial just going, it might, and like, I want to learn more. So important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right. I think people don't, I mean, I don't know. By the way, I'm having my tea in honor of you because it's British. Although, shout out to the ARC team. They gave this to me many years ago. So no disrespect. I should have a Radix mug. The CMO should really get on that, because that'll move the needle.
Should really like it.
That's going to move the needle for sure. I should go get the mugs. Drop everything, get mugs. Forget the messaging platform and the branding. Just go get some mugs. Exactly.
I actually do. I don't know where my branded mug is either. I've got a rose.
Yeah, but at least you're not the CMO advertising a different protocol. Like, that's bad. I mean, I should be fired. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because here's the end of the day. I should stop giving them free airtime. But here, at the end of the day, that's the thing about all the other players in the space. People call them our competitors. Like, I don't really look at it that way. I said, everybody who's in crypto is motivated by the same core belief that this is a fundamentally better, fair. It's not perfect. It won't be perfect. It will open up a whole new set of problems that we can't even imagine now. But it will be fundamentally better. Just like the internet, not perfect, all kinds of new issues, but fundamentally better than pre-internet world. Like, we would not be having this conversation in the pre-internet world, and now we can, and we're sharing. So, like, when I look at all these other players, like, we're all motivated by the same thing, and it comes down to, who has the best tech, or not even, it's who has good enough tech, and who has, I would argue, the best marketing, but certainly good enough marketing to get the story out there. That's really what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, like you and I have said, the most important thing here is that DeFi wins.
Right.
We just happen to think Radix is the best way to make that happen.
Right.
And hopefully others agree with us. So that's what this is all about. So anyway, I can give airtime to other people. But yeah, you're right. It's just like you have to. I love the way you frame that with the curiosity. And I think we need to be more, or we can be more, like, I think the word I might use is have a little more swagger about, if you don't align with our beliefs as a community, which is DeFi is going to eat CeFi, everything has to operate, that capital has to move freely, that these financial, like, I don't care where you stand on the Canadian truckers thing, but the fact that they had their funds frozen in sort of an ex-jurisdictional way by the prime minister, like, yes, today maybe it's someone you disagree with, but tomorrow maybe it's you. And like you start, and this is Canada. This is not like some third world, fourth world country that like you sort of expected. This is Canada, for goodness sakes. And every American knows that Canada is like the nicer version of America. So like you're like, what's going on over there? So you're right. It touches everything. And I guess the other thing I would say, like in the US, before I got off on this tea rampage, I should drink less tea. All the caffeine's going to my head. In America, there's a lot of talk about the crumbling physical infrastructure, roads and bridges. And yeah, it's not good and it hasn't been invested in. And people like understand like, oh, infrastructure is important because like that's like finance 1.0. You move a cash truck from point A to point B. Well, if it's taking me 8 weeks to move my 401k from account A, basically, I want to move my 401k tokens from wallet A to wallet B. That's all I want to do. And it's going to take me 8 weeks and a lot of paper trail, what have you. Our financial infrastructure is as decrepit as the physical infrastructure. But to your point, like people don't think about it. They just are like, oh, it takes 8 weeks to transfer your 401k. And you're like, why, dude? What? That's ridiculous. I can email and chat in real time, but I can't move assets in like a second? Are you kidding me? Sorry, man. Sometimes I get really passionate about this. Yeah, we should probably just stop.
But I mean, I think we should probably wrap it up, as you say.
We
but
should
like,
wrap
yeah,
it up.
that is. I think that's the basis of it. It's like it's not just being like, oh, it's being like, oh, I can take action on that.
Yeah, yeah.
I can actually do something
yeah.
that can improve that in the long run. That can the first company I ever made, nothing to do with finance. It was like a consumer electronics company. But like the thing that I loved about it more than anything else was like the thing that I built made people's lives a little bit better. And one of my favorite moments in the world was I was sitting in a cafe. Someone came in and sat next to me in the cafe, opened his computer, and he had my device in his computer.
Nice.
I'd never met him before. And I was like, I made that guy's day a little bit better, a little bit easier. And like that, like it's a little bit, but for a large number of people, it adds up and it makes all of the difference. And like, but this is something that can change. This is something that can move finance, social. So like, the ability you could have an infrastructure DAO where a large number of people individually can't take action, but collectively can put the money together to take action and improve the road between two cities because the council is badly run or like can't get the funding. Like there are ways in which this finance becomes more social. We're seeing the start of that with DAOs, but like what the end state is going to be is I find incredibly exciting as well.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly exciting. But no, I think we have a long road to hoe, and I think what I would want people to take away from this is like, we're chipping away at it, and I wish I could like snap my finger and be like, "Woo, we're there." But this is kind of the messy part of the process, and I think with your leadership and the other people on the leadership team, we're getting that alignment about we know what the product looks like, and we're doing a great job. I mean, it's amazing what we're doing on the product side. We're getting that sort of corporate marketing kind of North Star, make sure those are aligned, and then we push it. And I think, maybe by the time, well, we may not come back for this episode next month, but because we might get like 8 million downvotes, but assuming we get at least one upvote, which will be me, maybe game it. Maybe then we can start
get the pity. We'll get the pity. Oh, it wasn't that bad.
The pity upvote, exactly. We can start saying, like, here's what we're thinking, and here's how we're going to start orienting our organization to it, to basically bring about this moment of Radix Revelation. It might take a year or two more than we would like, but it doesn't change the fact that we know that there's an emotional experience that comes when you get it, and we want the more people who get it sooner, like, the better off everyone's going to be. It'll be like that dude in the cafe who basically, and that was for you, who basically said, my life is better. And they, 30 years from down the road from now, when all of your eyebrows are gray, we're going to be in another cafe. It'll probably be in the metaverse, but we'll be there, and you'll see somebody using a dApp that's running on Radix. And you'll be like, wow, that guy has no idea that he just did a transfer in like 0.01 seconds for 0.01 XRD that in a previous world would have taken him like 8 weeks. That's legacy, man. That's worth it. I'm getting emotional now.
Jeremy, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks,
thank
boss.
you so much.
I appreciate it. This is good stuff.
And yeah.
So wait, if anyone has comments, obviously add it. Hit us up in Discord, in the When Marketing channel, Telegram, Twitter. Piers is a little too active on Twitter, but he's on Twitter. I'm on Twitter too, so you can find us. And email, whatever, Slack, you'll find us. Hit us up, talk to our community managers. We want to hear more, and tell us what you think of this episode and where you think we should point our North Star. We don't have all the answers. We just have the good looks and the sense of humor. That's all.
And the gray
hair.
Exactly, obviously. Thank you, everyone, and until next time.
Until next time.